On January 13th, we have a full moon in the sign of Cancer. In this video, we'll go through the general forecast for this full moon, as well as each of the 12 zodiac signs so you know exactly what to expect. In case you missed the January monthly horoscopes and you didn't hear, I am so happy to announce that I am doing a live event here in Amsterdam. Together with Atelier Clay, we'll be hosting a workshop where we get to hand build a bowl out of clay while also talking about the 2025 astrology. So if you live in the Netherlands, if you're maybe visiting Amsterdam on January 25th, I would love to see you there. To sign up, make sure that you email the address that you see on the screen. During full moons, we are reaping the consequences of what we had sowed. We start to see a culmination of the decisions that we have made in our life, and these decisions start to bear fruits. These can be more positive fruits if we've been acting out of good intentions, or maybe not so positive manifestations if we have been acting out of not so good intentions. Because on the 13th, we are having a full moon in the sign of Cancer, we could be seeing any manifestations come from the caretaking decisions that we have taken in the past. Any areas of our life where we have decided to take care of others more than ourselves. Any areas of our life where we have decided to use this mechanism of taking care of others as a way to avoid what's going on inside, as a way to maybe park our feelings aside for a little bit and focus on something else or somebody else. During this Cancer full moon, you might be feeling especially emotional because Cancer is a water sign. You might be feeling more sensitive, and you might feel like there is a need for you to spend time alone, to spend time at home and somewhere quiet. And what I love about this Cancer full moon on January 13th is that it's in the decan ruled by Neptune. And we see this wonderful connection during this full moon of how taking care of others can be a part of our spiritual practice. And maybe even how our spirituality can actually be how we take care of ourselves, how we take care of our emotions, not necessarily dreaming or thinking about something spiritual in the sense that it has to be outside of this earthly realm or outside of our physical bodies. I would also like to mention that the moon is moving a bit slower than usual on the 12th, 13th, and 14th. And therefore, we might see this reluctance for us to trust people, this reluctance to say yes very easily. We might especially see that especially amplified because we are having a full moon in the sign of Cancer, which already on its own likes it when we take things a bit slow, likes it when we spend time in quiet time and alone time. And especially the fact that the moon is slow, I do feel like that effect will be amplified as well. And I'll mention one more thing about this full moon before we jump into the 12 zodiac signs. And that is that during this full moon, we have Jupiter squaring Venus with the strong emotions of the Cancer full moon. With the fact that the moon is slow, so we might not be very easily changeable. We might not be able to adapt and change quickly or respond quickly to what's happening. And the fact that Jupiter and Venus will be squaring, I do want to caution against overindulging. Whether that is food or alcohol or television, whatever that is for you, I would like to caution you against maybe indulging too much into good things because they maybe temporarily help you with some of the strong emotions you might be going through during this Cancer full moon. But all of that being said, let's jump into the horoscopes for each of the zodiac signs. And you can, of course, watch these for both your rising sign or your sun sign. For Aries rising and Aries sun signs, the full moon in Cancer takes place in your 4th house. Because it is in already a very internal house, very much the house of the home, this moon might impact you quite a lot, Aries. You might find yourself especially wanting to spend time alone and spend time at home. And you might also be seeing a sort of manifestation or culmination, a situation come up as a result of decisions you have made in the past surrounding your family or surrounding how you take care of your internal emotions. Any decisions you have made in the past, maybe even regarding your physical home as well. And I would say, especially because we have Cancerian fourth moon in, a Cancerian full moon in the 4th house, we see this double whammy of emotions. I would almost caution for you that the overindulgence doesn't become an overindulgence in your emotions to the extent where you play a victim or you seek sympathy. And of course, I do think we should all feel our emotions, but just be on the lookout during this full moon that you're not overindulging in any of these strong emotions, because let's face it, it's nice to face our emotions and then after a while get up and start trying to move forward. For Taurus risings and Taurus sun signs, the full moon in Cancer is taking place in your 3rd house of communication. Have you been communicating kindly and thoughtfully with others, but maybe not with yourself? Can your spiritual practice actually become more about speaking kindly and compassionately to yourself rather than doing meditation or any other type of spiritual practice? You might find on this full moon that you're facing any sort of repercussions based on your communication. Maybe you have over-promised, you have been overly kind, allowed others to step over your boundaries. You have been too kind with your words and communication. And as a result, you might see some repercussions from that. Or on the other hand, as well, as we shared, if you have been acting with good intentions, then you will also see positive results. For Gemini risings and Gemini sun signs, the Cancerian full moon takes place in your 2nd house. During this full moon, you might be wondering about whether you derive your self-worth from your finances, whether you derive your self-worth from how generous you are to others, and maybe if your own form of taking care of others means taking care of them financially. You might especially find during this full moon that you're feeling emotional when it comes to your finances. And you might really have to face this idea that perhaps your spiritual practice can be about taking care of yourself by taking care of your finances. Not necessarily sitting in meditation or going to a silent retreat, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with those forms of spirituality. These sort of ideas of taking care of your finances as a form of taking care of yourself and taking care of your spirituality might especially come up during the full moon. For Cancer risings and Cancer sun signs, this full moon takes place in your 1st house. You will be one of the zodiac signs that might feel this full moon especially. And because it's in your 1st house, you might find that it impacts a lot of areas of your life, and in general has you thinking about the way you show up to the world, the way you carry yourself, your personality, maybe even the way you dress, the way you do your hair, the way you talk, because that 1st house can be very all-encompassing. But specifically, because we are talking about the archetype of Cancer, during this full moon, you might be facing consequences where you have made taking care of others, being in that caretaker role as your entire personality, as your entire identity. And perhaps there needs to be a bit of a consideration as to how you can adjust that, and whether you need to incorporate a part of your personality that is actually about taking care of yourself and your beautiful, strong emotions. For Leo risings and Leo sun signs, the January 13th full moon takes place in your 12th house of spirituality. And having Cancer in your 12th house, it probably means that you already view spirituality as, or you already view taking care of your internal world, of your feelings, as a way to be spiritual, as a way to connect to your spirituality. And during this full moon, you might find that you're reaping consequences around that. If you have been ignoring this spiritual side of you, if you haven't been incorporating a regular practice of looking into your internal world, if that hasn't been a part of your spiritual routine, you might reap some consequences of that. Or vice versa, if you have been working diligently at taking care of others, being generous towards others as your form of spirituality, but also taking care of yourself as your form of spirituality, you will also see some type of positive effects during this full moon. For Virgo risings and Virgo sun signs, the full moon on the 13th takes place in your 11th house. During this full moon, you might see a sort of a situation or a manifestation with your friends or with the communities that you belong to. And specifically, you might see any past decisions you have made where you were focused too much on taking care of others and maybe forgetting to take care of yourself. You might see some sort of consequences come from those past decisions that you have made. And because the 11th house is also about our future goals and plans, you might also find that any emotional decisions you have taken in the past, or any emotional decisions you have taken on like your future goals. So making a decision on where you want to go based on your emotions, not on logic or on reasoning. You will see those types of the consequences of that or the manifestations of that come about during this time as well. For Libra risings and Libra sun signs, this Cancer full moon takes place in your 10th house of your career or your public image. I want to caution you against overindulging at your work, especially because we have that Jupiter-Venus square, and especially because your work during this full moon might bring up a lot of strong emotions. And during this full moon, you might find that whatever is happening at your work might be a consequence of past decisions you have made, past commitments you have made that have really come from this place of wanting to take care of others and maybe forgetting to take care of yourself in the meantime. Caring more about taking care of others' emotions and not so much about taking care of yours. And this can be also a positive manifestation, of course. If you have been a really solid leader that leads out of emotion at your work or in this public role that you have, of course, that could also manifest in a beautiful promotion. So keep that in mind. The full moon doesn't have to only bring challenging situations. For Scorpio risings and Scorpio sun signs, this full moon takes place in your 9th house of education, long distance travel, and the legal system. With this Cancer full moon, you are going to reach an inevitable and unescapable situation in those 3 areas of your life, or one of those 3 areas of your life, I should say. And you could especially be seeing this situation as a result of decisions you have made in the past where you were more concerned with the feelings of others rather than the feelings of yourself. For example, have you chosen to attend an educational program based on the emotions of others or as a way to take care of others, rather than really aligning with, am I choosing this from my own inner needs? And same goes with your decisions for travel as well. And I will also add the ninth house is about our belief systems. So during this full moon, you might especially be thinking about how incorporated in your belief system is this caretaking side of you, this nurturing side of you. And whether there's maybe a disbalance there, a disbalance where perhaps you need to start worrying a little bit less about others and start worrying a little bit more about yourself, or vice versa. Of course, that's always possible. For Sagittarius risings and Sagittarius sun signs, the full moon takes place in your 8th house. You will be seeing a manifestation or a result that happens from any decisions you have made in the past that have bound you emotionally and financially to another person. For a lot of us, that's our partner, of course. And this situation might bring a lot of strong feelings because we are talking about a Cancerian full moon after all. And you might especially see situations come up where perhaps you have focused too much on taking care of this other person, taking care of their finances, maybe thinking that vulnerability or being vulnerable is about letting them be vulnerable and you listening and taking care of them. But actually, that's not what vulnerability is. Actually, you haven't been opening up and sharing and being vulnerable yourself. So having this Cancerian full moon in the 8th house, you might especially find that, like I said, there's a lot of emotions, but if you are acting out of good intentions, I think this Cancerian full moon can also bring a really beautiful, deeper connection with your partner as well. For Capricorn risings and Capricorn sun signs, the full moon takes place in your 7th house of partnerships. And you will especially be coming across a situation where you have to think about how taking care of others might be creating an uneven or an unequal relationship. How perhaps by making sure the other person is always comfortable, making sure that they're always taken care of, that you're there for them, how that might bring a bit of an imbalance in your relationship. And of course, it could be that you're already doing a fantastic job at also taking care of your inner emotions. So then the full moon could also manifest in a beautiful result with your partnership. It could be that you find each other a lot more emotionally connected, on a lot more equal or balanced playing field, because you have found that balance between taking care of others, but also taking care of your inner world as well. For Aquarius risings and Aquarius sun signs, the full moon on the 13th takes place in your 6th house of health and routine. During this full moon, if you have not been seeing your emotional health as an important part of your health, maybe you've only been thinking about exercising, eating well, and sleeping, then during this full moon, you will come to see that that's not true. You will come to learn that actually taking care of your emotional health is just as important as getting enough sleep, exercising, eating well, brushing your teeth. And you might find around this full moon that it's really important for you to incorporate that emotional housekeeping as a part of your routine. For Pisces rising and Pisces sun signs, the Cancerian full moon takes place in your 5th house of self-expression, creativity, and romantic relationships or dating. One word of caution: for this full moon, especially because for you it's in the 5th house, is to be very careful not to overindulge. I know that as Pisces, sometimes you can tend to deal with your emotions by escaping. And especially during this Cancerian full moon in your 5th house, if you are dealing with some strong emotions, be very careful not to overindulge. Because of that Jupiter and Venus square, overindulging is very likely for all of us, honestly. But in general, this full moon could bring up any situations where perhaps your self-expression and your creativity was too based on the emotions of others, or was too focused on this caretaking or nurturing part of you. And perhaps around this full moon, you might find that some situation comes up that forces you to also realize that you need to take care of the emotions of your inner child. You need to incorporate your own emotions, your own feelings into any creative projects you're doing, into how you express yourself with those that you meet on your dates, or when you're out having fun or enjoying your hobbies. So honestly, I do think that this can be quite a fruitful and productive full moon for you, Pisces. I would just caution you to really, really make sure that you're not escaping during this full moon. So that's it. Those are the zodiac sign horoscopes, as well as the general horoscope for the Cancerian full moon on January 13th. I wanted to thank you for joining me, and let me know down below if you're looking forward to this full moon. And don't forget, if you live in the Netherlands and you would like to join us for the pottery and astrology workshop, it's happening on January 25th. I've left more details in the comments, and you can sign up by sending an email to the email you see on screen. Thanks again for joining me. Happy full moon, and I hope to see you again soon.